Call this meeting of the Bradenton Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will have citizen comments this time. Citizen comment will be accepted during the citizen comment portion of the meeting on any non-agenda item, agenda item, future agenda item, or topic of relevance to the Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Bradenton. Comments will be accepted on the public hearings at the appropriate time. And the only request I have is from Mr. Wiley Green III.
Good afternoon,
Yes, sir.
Wiley Green. My concern is the property at the 100 block of 13th Avenue West. It's been supposed to have been 8 years or longer development from CRA, store or park or something, but it seems like every time it becomes a necessary baby landfill. And out of 8 years, we still haven't developed anything, put anything there, and it's kind of bothering when you grew up in that community to see it keep going that way. And then some of the citizens that stay in that area, they couldn't even bring their stuff there, but they had other contractors from other areas bringing in yard waste and appliances and everything. And I'm just trying to hope that now that I know one time the board had Mr. Callahan carrying a lot of hats and he couldn't necessarily see everything, but now we got a chairman and maybe he can get things going this year since we got some fresh money. I don't know what happened to the money of the other 8 years, but that would be nice to see something develop there without a lot of promises anymore. Also in the 1100 block of 8th Avenue East, it's 3 blocks there that the church that I attend has been trying to buy land there and getting the run around, but yet it's still Public Works seem like they want to come in and bring a retention pond between 2 churches who have been there over 30 years or so, and that's sad, and we just can't figure out why they want to do that to help out water keepers when no problem in that area, and some of the area in that land has been given away by the CRA, so we were just hoping that we can get some help in that direction as well. And we do thank you all, but hopefully this will be the year that we can see some things done in those particular aspects for those 2 properties that's favorable for the community as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. I'll speak briefly. At 13th Avenue, we do have a project that's been moving forward on that property, but I can let Dr. Burton speak more to the debris that's there now, and it's just on a temporary basis.
Yeah, the current use of the property for post debris, storm debris, that's temporary. The property is currently under contract, and in fact, we had a discussion today with one of the final uses that'll go on the property. It's currently in permitting with the city, and we're doing the best we can to help them get through that. So as soon as that occurs, also FDOT and Swift Mud are involved in it because of where it's located. So those are also, but we are currently under contract trying to get our permitting through so that we can begin construction. It's on its way.
All right.
If I may.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Green, thank you for that, your comments. I agree with you. It does look really bad that the 13th Avenue land has been vacant for such a long time. And there, as our executive director has said, there is something, the ink isn't dry, but there is something being written. And as far as it becoming a temporary landfill, I've seen after other hurricanes that we've used it for that purpose, but for vegetation. And it is a little disheartening to see it turn into a landfill. But I've been assured that it's going to be temporary, and I hope that if we in the future still have that land available after a hurricane, that vegetation might be the only thing we consider putting it there. But thank you for your comments. And as far as the church property, that's something that when on the city side, I guess we could talk about as well. Would you like to, Mr. Perry?
Sure. Yes, sir.
So I spoke with Councilwoman Coachman last week.
Excuse me, will you state your name and who you are?
Thank you, Dr. Burke. I'm Rob Perry, I'm the city administrator. And so I spoke with Councilwoman Coachman last week, towards the end of last week, and she had been in touch with Mr. Green regarding the church property. And so I think it was Saturday. I went by there about 3 o'clock or so. I was down on State Road 70 going to a funeral for a contractor with the city, and I hit it on the way back. And that property, actually, I visited probably within 2 or 3 months of me coming on in the city over 3 years ago. And I went out there and met Mr. Green. At that time, he was interested in perhaps getting the adjacent property to, I think it would be the west of the orientation where his church is. And I said, well, let me look at it. So I got with Jim McClellan at that time. And McClellan said, well, yeah, we could look at giving him a piece of that property. And so we obtained an appraisal on that property, and we sent it. And I can't remember what that appraisal was, but we sent it to Mr. Green, I think, and I believe he received it. I don't know. I never had any further communications with him about it. In going by the property this weekend, the property was fairly well kept. It's vacant. There's grass on it. It's used for, I think, during services for Mr. Green's church, and it was fairly well kept. But Jim wanted to use the vast majority of for a bioswale, as I remember, and stormwater detention that was necessary to relieve flooding in the area, and we had put in, I believe, new stormwater out in front on that street as well. There was some aggregate that was on the property when I went by there on Saturday, and it looked like it was fill dirt, not too much. I'd say probably maybe a couple of 10-yard trucks. There was a silt fence around it, and it was fairly in decent condition. It wasn't spattered about with all the hurricane and the winds we had. I was expecting to see a lot worse, and so there is that material on the site itself. It is the city site. It does look like it has, I know it had a silt fence around it, so that's the report on the condition of the property. As far as getting back with Mr. Green after that appraisal, I don't know if there's still interest, if there's ability or the like, but we were considering trying to provide him what the city didn't need, also the direct adjacency to his property so that it could accommodate parking. That's what I can report on the situation as it relates to that property at the church. As far as 13th Street goes, I think Dr. Burton spelled out that we had to basically get DEP and DOT approval to put that site on there. And it's unfortunate when we have these types of storms, but the debris has to go somewhere because it can't be hauled all the way out to the landfill 9 miles away, basically. And so we had the site on 17th Avenue, which is adjacent to our wastewater facility plant. That had huge amounts of both CD, construction debris, as well as vegetative growth, because that was more on the west side that had a lot more vegetative growth, and Cirrus had about 40 pieces of equipment in town, so they were able to get a lot more debris cleanup. That is a FEMA recognized category that was recognized in the declaration under Category A for preventive measures as well as recovery for debris cleanup. Since that time, the 13th Street site had a minimal amount of vegetative debris on it. If you drive by there, I think I went by there a couple of days ago, and I was surprised that most of it had been removed from there, and that's because it's over at the Tropicana site that we're currently under contract with, and we had a pre-positioned contract with Tropicana to use that trailer loading area, the 28 acres that we're contemplating, and that we had to get approval from DEP to use it as a site, but we did that. It's much more secluded and isolated And I can tell you, I'm glad we put it there at Tropicana, because the amount that was picked up by Cirrus is mountains and mountains and mountains of trees, limbs, everything in between. And I think they moved any construction debris off the site. So that's what I know about it.
Okay. Thank you,
I
sir.
think the concern from the neighborhood was that construction debris and how much of it was. And initially, before Milton did actually hit us, there was concern that the debris was going to be thrown towards the homes. And fortunately, we didn't have any tornado type, you
Right.
know, effects to do that. And it pretty much stayed put. But I think it's just the aesthetics of it. You know, it's again, vegetation is one thing, but looking at piles and piles of sofas and, you know, but it was an unnecessary,
It's rubble.
it was
I mean,
a
that's what you
necessary
look at.
evil, and logistically, it does make sense. It's just hard sometimes
Sure.
when you're looking across the street.
And I will point out that DRC, who was the east side debris hauler, they used the 17th Avenue site for more of that east side stuff down in Ward 4 and Ward 5 as well. There was much more construction debris. That has all been removed and transported now to the landfill. What's at Tropicana? They moved a little bit to Tropicana originally. I said, just take it to the landfill. And so they removed all that stuff. If you go to that site that's adjacent to the wastewater treatment plant, that is still very, very, I mean, they have excavated, D6 excavators that are two and 3 stories up on top of those piles. And they're clearing it out as possible. We try to get all that stuff from Helene off the east side, especially when we knew that Milton was coming, because it would have been even worse to have it float into the river or into those already destroyed and damaged houses. So it wasn't an ideal situation. If I lived nearby, I can certainly understand and empathize with maybe dissatisfaction about that, but it was under fairly compelling circumstances.
Yeah, a series of unfortunate events, that's for sure.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions for Ms. Perry? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, that closes public comment. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda, item 4. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Mr.
Motion
Chairman,
is second.
just for discussion, on the updated sustainable redevelopment grants on section 4.12, we added the word historically relevant, just to let you know that before you vote on it. Everything else remains the same. It's just we added the word relevant.
That's what keeps lawyers employed.
Well,
Relevant to me.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, while we're talking about minor changes, I've got, there's a section in the purchase agreement with PHBGF that the assignment provisions are not totally clear about the, when they can assign the rights. There's a little bit of
item 4C.
inconsistency. What's that?
4C.
Yes, 4C, so
Without approval.
that's just a minor cleanup there that we need to make.
Okay. Does that need to be noted in the motion?
I would just note that legal counsel is going to revise the assignment language in section 22H of the
Do we have
agreement.
a page? What? Where are we?
Page 10.
22H, Henry. Assignment.
I'm not sure which thing I've got. What was wrong with the assignment language?
Well, it says that when they're assigning it to a related entity, it says that the city's consent will not be unreasonably withheld, which is typical language. And then there's some parenthetical down later that says without requiring any approval. So I think we just want to clarify that yes, we would be approving it, but it would not be unreasonably withheld.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. So noted.
Okay.
So noted.
Oh,
So
yeah,
moved.
that's fine, yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Motion is second. Any further discussion on consent agenda? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right. Next is the downtown CRA. Incentives for applications from Sons 2 Property LLC.
Mr. Chairman, we'll have Chris Munoz go over this with you. This is under our new incentive package, and again, it has to do with the property at Sons 2.
So, so basically, this is I think it's our first incentive, right? Yeah, so this is the new incentive. Connect Central, they're doing some demolition, some remodeling, they're working on the parking lot. They originally had a facade grant. We terminated those facade grants and now have the new 16 grants and then also the incentives. So we gave them the opportunity, since the facade grant was never paid out or anything like that, and they were still looking at working on this Connect Central building, to go, we gave them the opportunity to look at the new grants and incentives and make a decision if they would like to keep what they had or to move forward with the new ones. So they took a look at it and decided that it'd be advantageous to go ahead with the new incentive program, which is it's basically a reimbursement of when they pay their property taxes. It's over, in this case, the estimate it's over 12 years. And they're looking to invest about $2 million. Also, from before, they were looking at doing some remodel in the exterior. Now they're doing the parking lot now. So they're investing, $2 million into that. So we feel it's, I gave you the kind of the breakdown of what it would be and what that estimate is. They're looking at $2 million, which would be $240,000 over either the life of the CRA, or prior to that, depending on certain things, incentives that we have in there as well. But at the estimate right now, it's over 12 years. But then depending on what we ask them to provide at the end of their construction, everything, to provide the appraisal, and the nuts and bolts, the ending numbers are going to be based on what that appraisal is going to be, and then we'll bring that back with we'll have an agreement that shows all those numbers a little more. These are, estimated because they do fluctuate because of millage rates in the years and things like that. So that's what this incentive's for. And if you have any questions, I'm here, and then Glenn DeStefano is here from the owner to answer any questions you might have.
Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I mentioned this to Dr. Burton and Mr. Munoz, but I had not had an opportunity to ask Mr. Rudisell. I lease space in that building for my law practice, and because I pay for that, I'm wondering if I should maybe abstain from voting on this application.
Yeah, I would agree.
So,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Munoz or Dr. Burton on this?
This does come back to us once it's
Once
completed,
everything
and
is
we have,
completed.
and we have concrete figures as opposed to estimates. Okay.
And this is not, I know I asked earlier if this is nothing to do with the Kefi. Kefi was a separate.
Right.
And then same with Toscano, that's totally separate
That's
too.
a separate
Okay, so
owner,
this
yeah.
is just, okay. Okay.
So if I might, just remember that the statute says, to the greatest extent possible, aim your redevelopment activities with the private sector. CRAs don't create increment revenue, the private sector does. And it's our job to, as we go through and make improvements in the community, we have to generate revenues to make that money, to make those activities. So this is us working with the private sector to make improvements. And just so you know, these incentives have been used at It Works across the river, Detweiler's grocery store, the Marriott Hotel, and they've also been used for over $1 billion worth of work in Fort Myers. So they're well vetted. And again, everything is tied back to a state licensed property appraisal, which will at the end then go to the county property appraiser so that we can make sure that we get the appropriate value added to the property for the tax roll.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the CRA incentives application from Sons 2 Property.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, ayes have it. 4-0. Let me note that.
Well, 4-0, no.
Yeah.
I guess you're right, yes.
Next is item 5B in downtown CRA, the application for historical preservation grant from, let me make sure I get this right, GGGHG&G Investments.
Mr. Chairman, just as the incentives are used to draw private investment into the CRA area, the grants are more for business retention and also for resiliency, as we've all learned over the last month. Our grants, all 16 of them, not all 16 of them, but most of them are aimed at creating more resilient structures to get our economy back up and running as soon as possible after an event. We are well aware of what that looks like now, and we hope that these grants will be used extensively to help new roofs, windows, you name it, storm prevention, stormwater prevention, surge prevention. So this is the first, and it also happens to be one of my favorite topics, historic preservation. And we'll let Chris introduce the applicant.
So I'll come up here to get the presentation going.
We called you Bill.
Lighten it up a little. Lighten it up.
You got your arrows here.
Understandable.
So Mr. Galvin is going to give you a synopsis in the history of the building, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, Board, thanks for having us today. And I'm actually going to be brief, and you all have in your packet a PowerPoint. You have a lot of good information that the team's put together that we're all here to answer questions on or explain if necessary. But I think right out of the gate, the GGGH&G, that's the applicant, but really the applicant are four people you know very well who are part of this community: Nathan Crott, Caleb Grimes, Jeb Mulock. We work here, we're in the property that's before you, and it's really the four of us and myself, or three of them and myself.
And you are?
Bill Galvin.
Thank you very much.
Already had that nice introduction. So you all are familiar with the professional building. It's iconic in the city of Bradenton. It really is. What you may not know is that I used to clean that building. I was literally the janitor there years ago. What, about 3 years ago, Caleb? Yeah. No, but it's a fantastic piece of history that we have here. But like any older building, it has challenges. It has special needs, and it costs money to maintain, and sometimes extraordinarily. And then when you add a storm event like we just had, 11 windows out. And I think we ultimately had to put, what, 23 pieces of plywood up, Delver, to just mitigate for the storm. And we have roof issues, fire escape. And so what we're asking for you today is to join us in making a substantial investment in the building. It's 5 phases over 5 years. Total is $675,000. We're putting in that and then some, but we're gonna start with the roof that's leaking. We're gonna repair the roof, get that back in order, get it going, move on to the windows. I just mentioned the challenges we've been having with the windows. That's gonna be done in 2 separate phases. Through the years, when you have a building that opened in 1926, you have mortar, they call it tuck pointing. I'm not a contractor, fixing the mortar, the cracks, the little holes that have come on through the years, and then ultimately the fire escape. And we're here to stay with that. You know, we're not gonna make alternative plans. We're gonna continue to have this iconic building that really was the tallest building in Bradenton until what, 1983, which is not really that long ago. And we take great pride in it. You've all been inside. We try to give you that feel. It's on the ghost tour, which that should sell you in and of itself. And I have some stories, but I'll save those for later. But anyway, that's an overview. We're here to answer any questions that you may have, and we really would like your support on this historic preservation project. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, under the policies, they could apply each year, but for such a large investment, what we're asking for is a commitment for the number of years required to pay it back using our current set of policies, which you just amended. So again, they could come in each and every year, but they wanted to get a commitment for the full amount, and we'll be paying them out as the policy dictates.
What is the cap per year on that? Just
About $100,000.
$100,000.
Yeah, and currently we have over $400,000 in that account. And, you know, we want to be as flexible and work. If they actually spend more money quicker and we have money at the end of the year, don't be surprised if we come back at the end of the year. The main goal of not giving any more than that up front is we want to keep our cash flow going in case somebody else comes in and would like to get a grant. But at the end of the year, if there's excess revenue in there, then we're more than happy to come back to the board and request to just move it forward as long as they're investing and the state appraiser's number come in at the right numbers, which they should. So it's a great project, beautiful building, and a really great way to start off the downtown grants.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for keeping this old building. This is, like you said, iconic, and we have so few of the old historic buildings left. Anything we can do to help you, I mean, it's getting so hard with, you know, insurance and everything to keep these old buildings, so I think this is perfect for us, and I'm glad we can be able to help.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
just very briefly, Caleb Grimes, one of the owners with this great group here. And you know, my dad told me when people are saying the right things that you want to hear, you should shut up. And so I realized I should shut up. But I just wanted to tell you a couple of things that you may or may not know about that building that I think that we in the city should be kind of proud of. In 1983, when we were in there, the building had gotten very run down. And we were making a decision, our law firm, we were making a decision what to do. And we said, you know, we love this location, we love the old building, but it's terrible. We had window units, you know, and then if you opened a window, the wind blew everything off your desk. It was just really not a very successful way to go. And we asked the people that owned it if they would do something with the building. And they said, yeah, we'll sell it to you. And so the members of the firm got together and the then members bought it. And we did what's called an historic rehabilitation of the building. And you saw some of that in your outline. But a couple of things that were really interesting, over the years, Sharp's Drugstore had come in and cut out the old pillars and the big windows, you didn't have those big arched windows anymore. And it just, I had a publication I subscribed to And at the end, they always showed the remodeling job, they called it, where somebody took a really iconic building and remodeled it. And that's what it had happened to that building. And so, interestingly enough, when we started the work, the two back windows at the south side were all block. It was just a block area. We figured they were gone, and all the front windows were sheet glass, a window-looking thing. And we started taking that block out and figured it was not block. It was some concrete made to look like block, and the two back windows were there. So we had a pattern that we could use to put those in. We did that, and those two big pillars that are out there were gone, and they look like stone pillars. They're actually made of redwood, because it was the only way we could get something made that could be put in there and fit in and everything, but we kept the historic look for it, of that. And what is interesting, we worked through the State Historic Preservation Officer. I just remember he was the SHPO. Everybody called him the SHPO. And he had to approve everything we did. And if he didn't approve it, at the time you got some assistance from the federal government and a tax credit if you did something like that. If he didn't approve it, we didn't get it. So we were really gambling on it. He not only approved it, he put us up, and that building won at the time a state award for the absolute best historic rehabilitation in the state. So that was a nice thing to get. Another thing that you may know is that it has the original, one of the original manual operating elevators in there that was put in by Otis in 1926. It still operates. That elevator is better than the one we put in new next to it that is not manual. I mean, it has fewer problems. It's just a great elevator. And I was at the Bach Tower. I'm sure many of you have been to the Bach Tower. And the tour guide was telling us things about it and said the tower was built in 1929, which of course is 3 years after our building was built. And they were telling everything about it and it has the oldest continuously operating manual elevator in the state. And I took great pleasure to say, au contraire, City of Bradenton has the oldest one in the state. And I don't know that it's the oldest, but I know that she thought hers was the oldest and ours was 3 years older. So afterwards, her comment was, we have one of the oldest operating elevators. So it is really interesting that we have that, and it is in great condition. One of the things that we're doing once we finish this roof, where we're having to use it to haul stuff up and down, is we're going to go back through and spruce it up again, because people love to see that and love to ride in it. And so I really appreciate your helping us with this, and the reason we want to look at a multi-year thing, the work we do on this takes a long time to find the right people who can do it with the historic nature. The windows, I don't even want to begin to say on replacing those windows in a way that is safe, hurricane-proof, and maintains the historic character. It's taking us months and months and months to figure that one out. So we appreciate what any help you can give us, and we're going to pay it back to the city. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I know I've said this before when we were looking at other historic projects. This is bittersweet when I sit and listen to this. I love preserving history, but I think back on the Covington House, and I just wish this board was in place as just even maybe 3 or 4 years ago or 5 years ago when they decided to tear it down. I just thank you for bringing this forward. I love preserving history. I just sometimes get a little sad and teary when I think about how that could have been restored. And anyway, great.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
I too, I think if the professional building wasn't in downtown Bradenton, you wouldn't know where you were. Because it's some, I mean, it's certainly been there for my entire lifetime, and I know that the mayor makes fun of how old I am, but it has a grandeur about it, and it's beautifully done, and the scale and the vernacular, it's just a gorgeous building, and it's not something that somebody's going to build today. They're just not going, I mean, because, you know, it was the tallest building until we got the big glass building at the end of the street down here. And looking at that building, you could be anywhere. You could be in Tampa. You could be in Sarasota. You could be anywhere. If you look at that building, you don't know where you are. But if you look at the professional building, you know you're in downtown Bradenton. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to approve a historic preservation grant from GGGHGNG. I think I got that right. Investments for the downtown professional building located at 1023 Manatee Avenue West.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? I recognize Ms. Gonzalez-Moore.
So just to clarify, though, we are going to stay within the incentive limits, and as funds are available,
Yes.
pay more of the obligation. Okay, wonderful. I did just anecdotally attend the Manatee County Bar Association luncheon today, where Judge Gilbert Smith spoke about his upcoming new book, and a picture of the professional building when it was the bank was featured. And I think we're being responsive to the desires of the community in continuing to be forward-thinking in our development, but preserve our history when we have the opportunity. So I'm appreciative of that partnership opportunity, and just wanted to share my lunch experience.
Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next, give me a moment.
It's one you can say for the room.
All right, item 6 on the agenda, 6A, under Central CRA, Love Park Revitalization and Conceptual Design.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we've gone to the advisory board and we have been working with them. We have Applied Sciences here to come up and talk to you about the concept of Love Park. Even with 2 hurricanes and everything else that's been going on, we are still moving forward and pushing this project. Really good meetings with the advisory board, and here to give you some ideas and some thoughts for your responses also.
Do I have to lean into this thing? Hi, I'm Brian Cook with Applied Sciences. It's been great to work with these guys, and we've had a few meetings, and things have been progressing. Hurricane set us back a little bit, well, the hurricanes plural, but anyways, we are making great progress on this, and want to move it forward. There might be a little too much detail on this, so you can, I might skip through a couple of parts, but want to give you a sense of the overall project, where it's at, and what ideas and concepts we're developing for it. So as far as context, the project is there at Love Park, which is near Tamiami Trail between 10th and 11th Ave. It's a little less than 1 acre site next to a church and 2 residences.
Central.
So there's a history involved with public engagement for this park. There's been some work done even before we started, and we did our diligence and reviewed all of those documents. and in combing through all of that, some of the main pieces of input were that safety and security, really important for that park. That there be playground equipment, game tables, shade structures, bike racks, accessibilities, and that they'd have some opportunity for an event space. So we took these, as the design company, design office, thinking of those elements as what needs to definitely be embedded into the park. Here's a look at it now. To help with the safety and security, the CRA has removed some of the elements of the park in order to kind of have a blank slate for it right now. There's, and I think that's in a way helped with some of the safety and security from what we've understood. So looking at the site, just to give a little bit of background, the way we're thinking about it is that, especially with safety and security, where you have activity, that's where you have more eyes on the street, they say, and where it's easier to kind of keep tabs on what's going on in a space. So those are really important parts of thinking about where to put things for the site. And so you'll see we have on the north side of the park, really you can see into the site fairly well from the street side there. There are some trees that block a little bit of part of the site, but on the southwest side of the site, it's fairly open. But what that led us to was really that we wanted to not have passive uses, not sedentary sitting kind of uses in the very middle of the site, which is actually how the site's kind of organized now. There's a picnic table, or there was, and some of those elements where people are just kind of sitting and hanging out, and they were deeper into the site where you don't have as much visual access. So we made this rule of no passive uses there, and then trying to keep our passive uses right there on the street edge. So we went through some design options and iterations, and these were presented to the CRA Advisory Committee. We had a meeting with them, which was very favorable, got great feedback. We did the sticky note game, and people put the things that they liked and which things from this design they wanted to have another design. But we went through and we had these three designs. One was more of a central corridor with a big kind of centralized play space, that blue zone that you're seeing there, and then a turf field. This would be artificial turf, something easy to maintain. That, as a side note, thinking about the design, that's kind of a design parameter I have, this idea that anything we put in there, we want it to be healthy, we want it to be successful. So thinking about plants or the materials, we want those to be things that are going to survive. Thinking about access control, how people are moving through the site so that they're not stepping on plant areas, compacting that soil. It keeps things healthy over time. So that's definitely a design consideration. But this design had its central play element. We had another design that similarly has a central kind of play element, just playing with different shapes, but we're looking at shade structure on the edge and places for people to be. And then something else this is a different design where it's a kind of longer linear element for play and access actually on the southwest corner of the site. So we talked through all that with the advisory committee and came to consensus where, it's not as squished on your screen, that's good. So came to this as a more refined drawing where we have this access we have, well, I guess I'll start on the outside, adding a few parking spaces on the south side of the site. So you'll see that there with an accessible space. There was parking in the old organization of the site. Those would then be turned into a basketball court, kind of a modified half-court space. Again, this being right at the edge of the park where there's more eyes on it rather than where the basketball court was before, much deeper into the park, and where it used to be adjacent to the church facility there. But yeah, so having those parking spaces there, having a very focused and intentional access points at the south and north, where I think we're planning on having video surveillance, but having it be very intentional about where people are entering and exit the park, and then where the park could be closed after certain hours at night. Then having the circulation pattern double as like a perimeter space, that where inside of that you have that play facility or play area, and then the turf kind of field along the southwest there. And then what was requested also was how important that shade is, and having some seating space underneath that shade, maybe some checkers chess tables, those kinds of things, but those would be at the north end of the park, again, next to the edge of the park. So just to highlight things, play areas where shade would be, the perimeter security fence, entry and exit points. We've been thinking about lighting, having pedestrian scale lighting so it looks comfortable, looks kind of, looks like a place for people to be, not big industrial scale lighting. Making sure we have the waste, trash receptacles and a drinking fountain by the place area. And just as an image, thinking about the planting palette already there too. So, I don't know if there's anything else that we need to add there, but I think we've had 2 or 3 meetings about this, and this seems to be the favored design direction, and our next steps would then be to move this forward to construction drawings and really get moving, get contractors in the space, and make people feel like there's something happening there for their neighborhood.
So just so you know, Brian's been working with, again, the CAC with us. We told you we would move this quick. This is the first time I've actually seen this drawing, and it's a culmination of the other drawings. I mean, he actually pulled together what the CAC had asked for. And we have a budget of $1 million plus an extra $65,000 for public art. As you can see in the center, just looking at this, I gotta figure that's where the public art might go. You've heard him talk about lighting. You've heard him talk about cameras, which is SEPTED, which we'll make sure that the police department can advise us on that. We have had the public works maintenance crews out there talking to them about what we should do to help their jobs, to make it a little easier for them, to keep the park maintained properly. You saw where he marked off where the fence goes. We held off on putting up the 6-foot-tall decorative fence because once we got into this, it's like we might have to move it. And we also met with the planning department and other city departments through a SIP. There was no requirement for parking, but we wanted it to be a neighborhood park, but we wanted to have handicap accessibility. You see the handicap parking space there. We would like to make sure that to take it to LID, which is low impact development, which helps with stormwater. And lastly, you approved this year sinking funds to begin for all 3 CRAs, which means sometime in the future when the CRA isn't there to take care of this park or help take care of it, those sinking funds will be in place and the interest can be used and can be used on a park like this. So we are trying to make this as sustainable as possible, and this is what it's about. So really excited. I mean, I don't know about you, Chris, but looking at this, it all of a sudden fits and works, and I'm really excited about it. So with the board's approval, we can begin the process of having them actually put this into a design template for future construction. But we wanted to get this out as fast as possible, and like I said, the ink's not even dry on this slide. So Brian's moving fast.
Right.
Probably faster than he likes.
I'll allow Mrs. Coachman
Yeah,
to go
thank
first,
you. I was
as it
gonna
is her ward.
I was at the committee meeting when you met with the CCRA. I'm gonna always say, yeah, and I'll have to say, this brings a smile more so than, I love the culmination of the things that you heard from them, and this definitely looks nice.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Of course.
Yeah, okay, just, because I just did a park. The shade in Florida is so key on these with the equipment, and, are you gonna be able to keep the existing mature trees that are there? Because I mean, I lost everything, and the equipment just, it's almost unusable in the summer. It's so hot to the touch. So I don't know if there's gonna be any covering over that. I don't know if you'll be able to take that into consideration with our budget, but.
So if you look at the picture in the bottom right of what's showing, that's the existing trees that are out there. And the design is actually kind of all melded to take advantage of that particular canopy. So you'll see within the big circle on the right side, there's a grove of existing trees, and those would be fit into the rubberized play surface. And then the entry is also sort of directly adjacent would be some of those mature trees at the entrance. So that's definitely the idea, is to take advantage of those existing trees. And then as we get into the design of the play equipment, I think there's potential for maybe, what we're hoping for is with the budget and everything, that at the north end, we can have a more formal kind of structure of shade that people feel like it's a living room and they can sit and hang out and do things. But in that play area, we're thinking it'd be more like the canvas triangles and some kind of shade above the equipment.
And I had one more question.
Go ahead.
And you maybe haven't picked out the equipment yet, but will there be some all-inclusive equipment here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that's something that as we get into, is noted, and we'll take that into account as we're kind of figuring out what's going to go into these spaces.
Well, this is exciting.
Mrs. Barnaby, anything?
Mrs. Barnaby's happy.
What?
Mrs. Moore?
I'm thinking of all the chocolate I'm going to get tomorrow, Dr. Burton.
Mrs. Moore, anything?
I think it looks great.
The one question I have about the lighting for the basketball court, was that just one light sort of shining towards the hoop from the southwest corner?
No, actually, we were
I couldn't quite
thinking-
tell on the.
Yeah, and we'll
one.
probably be working with the lighting company on
Okay.
that, but especially with LEDs, we can place them, and then they have shields and directionality that we can kind of get them where we want. But I think it would probably be more on the backside, pointed away from the church towards the street, so that you're kind of casting the light out that way. That would be what I would assume to start with.
Okay, I would then be concerned about the neighbors
Yeah,
across the
that's
street,
what I was
'cause
gonna say,
is there a,
there's there are
assistance home?
homes like really close.
wasn't there like a sort of an ALF right there too? Or is that on 12th Avenue? Or is it not
Talking
existing?
about what used to, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not
Okay.
in
All right.
existence anymore.
Good. Good.
Yeah, that would
On a
definitely.
variety of levels, that's good.
It would definitely wouldn't be anything more than a regular street lighting, candle light of
Okay.
levels of lighting.
Okay.
And to be honest, in that area, it's where I live, we like light. We really don't want it to be too dark, but of course not bright, like you can't go to sleep at night, but
Yeah.
it's better.
Yeah, the new lights are
Lights.
actually pretty amazing how you can direct.
Do you need a vote from us, or?
Well, I believe there is going to be a
There's a
recommendation,
motion.
suggested motion.
I think I see Mrs. Coachman getting ready to give.
Yeah.
It's at
that
the
it?
bottom of the page there.
Because my iPad went to sleep. Move to direct staff to complete conceptual Love Park improvements and proceed with construction designs.
I think there's like 3 seconds to that.
Yeah.
All right, there's a motion in 3 seconds, although I didn't hear any.
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion in 3 seconds.
Thank you.
All in favor? Any further discussion amongst the board?
Nope.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Yay. This is fun stuff.
I like this meeting.
Next on the agenda is other discussion and new business.
Mr. Chairman, as we noted earlier, we did have a phone call today from one of the final uses on the 13th Avenue Center site. We have a McDonald's coming in, and I can tell you matter-of-factly that they carry a big stick. They are well-known across the state. They work with FDOT and SwiftMud and every other water management district in the state. So we are excited to have them on board, and we feel that with their participation that property will begin the process. The day that we close, the CRA will be reimbursed money. The property owner will be required to come out with $1 million worth of improvements on the site before they even begin vertical construction. And also, there'll be money set aside to the city that will fund a new water line through the neighborhood, which will increase the pressure across the whole neighborhood and help the fire department with any kind of needs that they have. So, but we just want to let you know that when McDonald's, when Ronald shows up, things get done, and we're excited about that. The last week we were at the conference, and the city of Bradenton was spotlighted in a number of ways. We had multiple sessions. We had one big training session at the front that unfortunately the chairman had to sit through for 4 hours.
I'll reserve comment on that.
And Chris was there with me to help me with that. So next year in West Palm Beach, I was thinking on the way home about Love Park, and the Met will be one. The mural, we'll have items competing with each other within categories. We've got so many things that are on the way. So very excited about prepping for that and getting those applications in. And then we are in the process of identifying our redevelopment coordinator. We have been interviewing and interviewing and interviewing. We want to make sure we get the right person. The entire staff is doing the interviews, so we get a good 360-degree interview. Temporarily, we have Anakin Skywalker guarding our front door. He's doing it at no cost to the city, so he'll be our redevelopment coordinator until we find the right person.
Or at least through tomorrow evening.
I swear if that thing starts walking, I'm gonna run.
So, which, just for the record, that I paid for that personally. So if anybody says anything, it was definitely not the CRA. We have anything else?
And he's twofold. So he holds a pumpkin. For Christmas, he holds a ball, right?
He holds
Christmas ball.
he holds a Christmas ornament that looks like
Gosh,
the
it's
Death
gonna be
Star.
like those
Christmas
skeletons that just keep getting redone.
Double duty.
I'm putting tinsel on it, Jeff. I just want you to know.
Is there anything else that? We do have a number of other grants that are in the works and incentives, so they will be coming in. And and also Brian left, but he's with Applied Sciences, and that is the company that the city has chosen to work on their big stormwater kind of master plan with the city park project. We have money in the budget, and we have talked about this before. Just want to keep it in the forefront. It's definitely a multi-year project, but we have money this year in all 3 CRAs to do conceptual work on making improvements in partnership with the city. And that would include, in Tamiami Trail, that includes Village of the Arts and the Singletary area that surrounds City Park. Also connecting City Park to the downtown and the Riverwalk. And then having a east-west all the way from 14th to 15th Street East MLK improvement that includes all 3 CRAs. And the way that I've done this in the past on a project, I mean, this is bigger than any project I've ever done individually in any CRA I've worked in. And it includes 3 CRAs. And what it is we want to do this first year of just getting the ideas out. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it include? Lights, sidewalks, multi-mobility, parking pullouts for buses, anything that we need and the city needs into the future. And also has a stormwater component to it that pre-treats stormwater as it's moving through the process to the river. Think of the whole MLK cuts east-west, and all the water that sheet flows south to north to the Manatee River. We can catch the first 15 minutes of that and that's the most polluted portion, and treat it, which will help give the city credit when that water then goes into the river. But this first year is just conceptual, so there'll be a lot of discussions. We plan on piggybacking off of the city's current contract with Applied Sciences. They are on our CCNA list with the city, and having them come in and go through the same process that Brian showed you with the park, except on a much larger scale that includes parking. And SEPTED would be involved with this, cameras and lights and things to that nature. The next year, or when we're prepared and ready, we would then go apply for state revolving loan funds in 2 parts. One would be for engineering, and the other would be for full-on construction. And that would be, again, all 3 CRAs. There is a very high probability of grants that we can apply for that would match some of this. But right now, we're looking at a $35 million project spread out over all 3 CRAs. It would be very impactful to the entire core of the CRAs and to the whole city. And again, it dovetails in with City Park, and will take that core of what they're going to do, what they're creating there with the pirates and the marauders and everything else, and it will create this offshoot of opportunities for redevelopment and economic development. So just to let you know, it's coming. Hurricanes got us a month behind, but we will be bringing that to you. It is in the budget, and probably this year is the year that we would want the board to say, this is what we want to do as CRAs in Bradenton. And it's a big decision, and really you need to gauge, is it worth it? I think it is. I think it's, state revolving loan funds are 20-year 1% money. In this economy, you can't beat that. And and with this public improvement will come rezoning and private investment, and that's what we're looking for also, to expand the tax base, which increases our income revenue. So I just want to keep you guys at the forefront of this, so it's not a surprise. But I wish Brian was still here, because he's part of the team the city's using now.
May I?
Yes, ma'am.
I think that sounds really like a fabulous investment, and just to plant the seed. My only criticism of the project is that it ends at 15th Street. As everybody knows, my area was very badly affected by the hurricanes, and I would just love for us to just consider, I'm just planting a seed here, that maybe instead of ending at 15th Street, it makes sense to go all the way to 27th and come up 27th, and then maybe engage part of 2nd Avenue with the total streetscape that the MPO and Kim Clayback have been considering doing in that area, for all the same reasons. The investment that brings development, that ultimately raises values and brings more general revenue. So I don't have a path to that at this time, but It's just a first thing I thought of. So I'm just parking that there with you guys, and maybe Mr. Perry as well.
So just for the record, the reason it stops at 15th is that's where the downtown stops. And the downtown covers half of MLK. For some, I usually don't recommend this, but in this case, it's great. It goes right down the middle of MLK, so half of that road would be improved with using downtown. The downtown is helping the other two smaller CRAs in this process. To go further to the east, there's Central, that we can look at that. We were doing our best to partner the downtown with the other two, and to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever seen any city in the state of Florida merge all their 3 CRAs together and work them together like this. So this is it is
It makes sense.
I love projects like this. And when I went to Tampa, I had 4 CRAs on one big project, covered 4 CRAs, and was going to be built over a 10-year period with phases. And each CRA was going to be ending over a period of time. And my first project was to put together the analysis for the incentives for that project, the Gasworks project. This is that kind of project. This is something that is multi-dimensional, and to me, and that just pushes, my thinking, which means it'll push Chris's thinking, and we're excited about doing something this cool and complex, and tying it in with the city project, which is the whole beginning of it. So when I got here and they showed me that, I knew 2 things. One, you don't want me involved in that project, because I'll start trying to tell you what to do with your project, which I know I would do. But then I looked around the outside and I said, what would you like done around the perimeter? And they're like, we're thinking about that. I said, let the CRA jump in on that, and we can tie it all in together. So this would be a project that would be a trendsetter into the future for downtown Bradenton and all the CRAs, and a partnership with the city. So excited about that. And the cool thing is the incentives and the grants dovetail right into that, because if we do get private investment because of this, if we get a hotel, if we get anything that comes of the city park and tying it all together with the CRAs, then the incentives are there to further encourage that. So that's why we put them in place. So we're really excited about this, and we hope you are too. And again, this year is let's put on our thinking caps here and really get our ideas straight. And then we need to, in the next year, line up the financing. So we have 2 years to get this lined up and pointed in the right direction, and then the dust will begin. And then people will complain for a couple of years because everything's going to be tore up. But the day after it's finished and people are enjoying it, that's all forgotten. Yeah, so. Got anything to add to that? So other than that, that's our new business, and we are excited we were talking earlier about PTSD after and I just feel like I'm getting my feet back on the ground and excited to feel that. So we got stuff we got to get done in Bradenton.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Burton, for our next meeting or sometime shortly in the future, could we get a report from Freebie?
Oh,
Yes.
I had that on my list.
Yes, we can do that for you.
I would really like to, particularly now that we're going to be working with the city of Palmetto and having things.
Since you brought that up, the Monday before the conference, the mayor of Palmetto signed the contract with Freebie, which will be another application for an award. Imagine 2 CRAs coming together for an award at the conference. I mean, this is a lot of fun stuff. It also, just for the record, it's not the solution that Bradenton has been looking for, but when it comes to food deserts, it will open up 4 different grocery stores to the customers in the Bradenton CRAs: Detweiler's, Walmart, Aldi's, and Publix. So Freebie will be able to take them there and back, and that doesn't solve our, let's put it one, footprint in the area, but it sure does help. And,
Well, it has to help the people in Palmetto that need to come over to Manatee Memorial for medical services.
that, the boats, the connections to the convention center, the Manatee County Tourism Board really played a big role in Palmetto doing this. It opens up all kinds of really cool economic opportunities in the future, so really excited about that. And I will be the first one to tell you that when Freebie first came here, I had mixed feelings about it. I wasn't sure about it. It was Chris's baby, and I'm like, I'm not gonna stop this, but I gotta say, I was wrong, and Chris was right.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
No, Colonel Sanders, you're wrong, Mama's right,
I have a couple.
the water boy.
Well, I had one more thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Just so that everybody remembers that tomorrow is Halloween. And with all of the debris and everything everywhere, I just want to ask everybody if you can pull stuff out of the roads, that would be great. Just to keep an eye out on all the kids that are walking around. And on Friday, we have in the Village of the Arts,
Zoom in, camera.
the Festival of the Skeletons, and they are selling these shirts. They are $20 a piece, and the skeleton lights up in the dark.
Oh, creepy.
20th anniversary.
20th anniversary, who would have thunk it?
Yeah, I've been in communication with some people in the village. Next year is the 25th anniversary of the Village of the Arts. So there going to be hopefully a proclamation from the city about that, about the year of the Village of the Arts. And anyway, Mrs.
Yeah,
Coker.
especially with the report from Freebie, I would like to know who's writing it, and do we need to adjust our hours? Because I know we started out just kind of like spitballing it, and just didn't know. I feel like I don't know enough about who's writing it, when they're writing it, all that. And sometimes I see it way outside the CRAs, which, going to public, I see it at Publix. But maybe that's when they're doing it on their off time. I don't know, but, and then, also, I know, like you said, PTSD, and I don't know now that we don't really have a public art director, but I was just wondering if the public art board could do an assessment on all of our pieces and see if things have been damaged or, some of that's, I don't know. I just want to make sure we've used our public funds. I want to make sure we're good stewards of it. And then advisory boards, we have 2 now. Are we gonna get a third?
No, we are open to the third. We plan on having a third
Yeah.
for the downtown. I think we have 1 applicant right now.
Yes.
Yes, and so any help we can get with and business owners, I mean, the downtown,
Yeah,
I
I've
don't
had a
have to.
couple of people that have said they were interested. I'll give you their names. So.
And yes, we will be working with the Art Advisory Board. Jean G. left big shoes to fill, and we have had, God knows, 15 interviews, 12 interviews. Yeah, and.
Their board is just they seem so passionate about it, they'd probably go and do it. It doesn't have to be anything. I just want to make sure we're keeping an eye on it.
Well, I think, don't we have a meeting coming up with?
We do, and
advisory board can start.
we're going to focus them on MLK Park, because there's a park and there's money, and we're going to build the art into the park when we build the park.
Yeah,
So that's their next assignment, and then we'll also work with them to keep them up and running. We haven't forgotten them.
yeah. I just feel like if we're going to keep spending money on public art, we got to make sure that it's maintained and kept.
Absolutely.
So that's all.
I will recognize Mr. Perry momentarily.
Oh.
Councilman Coker's point, which is an excellent point about the public art and damage through the storm. So I've kind of transitioned to reimbursement. You go from recovery. We're still doing recovery, but we bought Haggerty in, and it's a 90-day contract, emergency contract. Haggerty is a specialty firm that the county uses. They will highly recommend, even though FDEM couldn't recommend people, they said, you'll be pleased with Haggerty. They do very good reimbursement work. But what I'm finding is that even though we're very robust in what we're trying to do for damage assessment at the city's qualified through public assistance for city assets, we'll say. And there's categories of them. There's roadways, there's the utilities, there's the parks. Each one of these is what's called category A through G. These are actually C through G. But in thinking about the public art, based on you mentioning it, I think it'd behoove us to have CRA think about a list of their assets. I had Bill Ackles going out, looking at a lot of the signage along the river, the Riverwalk and Main Street, and I know that CRA has paid for some of that. And so I want to make sure that we get these guys in the loop from the CRA to make sure that when we put our submission in for public assistance, which is one of the major deliverables for the Haggerty contract, that we include you all in there.
Okay.
And in doing so, you need a lot of support documentation that the asset was maintained in operable condition prior to the storm event. So you have maintenance records, you have the purchase, the cost of it, and other factors that have to go into that package. So I think it would be great to have Dr. Burton and his staff maybe get with some of our folks on that Haggerty and look at it, because you all have made substantial investments just from the CRA perspective, let alone the city investment.
Yeah, I mean, even those benches that are around the water feature,
Right.
those were public art. That we paid that artist a lot to do those.
Right.
And, you know,
Some of the curbing on the Riverwalk itself is blown out. I don't know, you know, it's
yeah.
factored into some of the CRA.
and there's some sculptures that are kind of in the trees.
Yeah.
I haven't been down after the,
We'll take a
I've
look.
done a couple runs down there. It's not pretty. I mean, this is really significant damage to both landscape as well as permanent structure fixtures and flat work and all the stuff that goes into it. Yeah.
I blame Anderson Cooper.
Very close to where I was referring to, so.
He didn't say our name right for the first hour.
Next, Mrs. Coachman.
What P.T. Barnum said, any publicity is good publicity, so.
Well, I don't know where Bradenton is, so
It's right next, it's where the Kroger is.
it's where the Krogers are, which is where he said he did grocery shopping here.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Mrs.
no
Coachman.
Krogers.
Thank you. I just didn't want us to end the meeting without me saying thank you, CRA Community Policing.
Yes.
It's a great report, and I see you working all the time, all the time. Thank you.
Mrs. Moore.
I am, yeah, I'm gonna, no. I said my thing so far.
So, Mr. Chairman, with the approval of the consent agenda, the Private Eyes grant, the new one with the police department, is now in effect. And they can go out, and it's, I think, $750 full grant, 100% match grant, to work with the private sector, work with local businesses to use their current cameras with our system, and with a 2-year subscription. So that's in play, and if you would like, now that it's been brought up, when I was in Tampa, I had Dr. Downs from USS Geosciences have a couple of her students go into the Channel District and downtown area and geocode all of the public assets. So if that hasn't been done on the Riverwalk, which is a CRA project, it has not been done. You know, everything, we can have them identify, take pictures, and what they do is it actually goes up on an ArcGIS map site, and you can click a button, and it gives you pictures and anything that they can tag to that in the cities. So that's a possibility, and be happy to talk with her about that.
I actually had our drone services do that to get GIS coordinates and to get pre-position photos of everything on the Riverwalk. So
Awesome.
you might want to compare their list with what you got.
Absolutely. Yeah.
don't forget about Chrysalis Launcher.
You know we have a drone service. I heard that one particular council didn't know we had Skyhawk.
I found out about it, but I wasn't sure it was a real email. Honestly, it's like, this sounds very suspicious.
It's incredibly
I know.
valuable for what we had to do in this storm.
Oh, my God.
We had to do it here, but-
Oh, my gosh.
I would like to thank KK, especially for helping set us up to get up to the CRA conference this past week. It was a lot of fun. It was very informative. It was good collaboration. I came to find out that
Even though
even
you didn't get the presidential suite.
next year, well, maybe next, whoever's chairman, whoever might be chairperson next year, by the way, let me just put that out there. Goodness gracious. No, it was nice, high floor. I had good view of Amalie Arena. I was happy, you know.
Well, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. What I'd like to say is that even though I sit in the seat of the mayor of the city of Bradenton, turns out the mayor of that conference was none other than Dr. Jeff Burton, because he knew everybody and was shaking hands and getting pats on the back. And
Kissing babies.
there were I didn't see any babies. No babies, but or nor strangers, anything like that. But no, it was good to see the respect you have statewide. Everybody knew you, everybody appreciated it, everybody was very happy that we have you working here. Sitting in that class, I was gonna mention Shirley sat directly in front of me, so she took some of the heat for me, but still, heat came my way because I'm an elected official apparently at those meetings. And was one thing that you're a member of, what is it? What's the affiliation you're a member of?
Oh, I'm a lifelong member of PA, Politicians Anonymous. I'm a 30-year member.
Yeah.
And going. I'm not planning on ever running for office.
Couple years, I might join you, buddy. Meanwhile, that class really was a CRA board training. It was one that individuals specifically had to sign up for. 66 members in that class, I believe.
Yeah.
Including myself, as I mentioned. Several of our CRA advisory board committee members were in there, and Chris was up there. and
Left-hand man.
Got kudos left and right from Dr. Burton during it. Also, during the banquet on this Thursday night, Chris received his academy graduation from the Florida Redevelopment Agency's academy as a, what was the official? Administrative? What was the official?
He's an FRA-RP,
All right. What's the RP stand for?
redevelopment professional.
Thank you, Dr. Burton.
And when
Thank
he,
you.
and when he reassumes the administrator, he can get that changed to an RA,
Yes, okay.
yeah, which he should do.
But
So-
again, great time. Glad that we were able to get there this year, and hopefully West Palm Beach next year, everybody. Just putting it out there. It's pretty decent down
And
there.
I will tell you this, it's fun when people come up to you and say, no matter what city you're with, they always show up big at the FRA. I'll check with people that I think that Bradenton had more people there as a city with the advisories and everybody than anybody else. And there were some cities that were showing up big, so.
Yeah.
But I think we beat them all.
It was very nice that our volunteers wanted to give the gift of their time to become educated and to get some really interesting ideas and things. So I really appreciated our volunteers being willing to do that.
Very nice.
I have said this to somebody else in this room, but what scares me the most after probably 18 conferences is when you come back and one of the elections goes, I've got ideas.
On that note, any other new business or other discussion? Hearing none,
Thank you.
we're adjourned.